in a COVID and a post-COVID
Wait,
world?
wait.
Oh, okay. I think you had put me on mute. Should I go back on mute? Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar on luxury in a COVID and a post-COVID world. The COVID-19 triggered lockdown has taken a toll of the economy, and it's leaving a lasting impact on many businesses. What does this mean for luxury at a time when health and safety are the top priorities? When survival of the people who make luxury goods is perhaps more critical than those who consume those goods. In such circumstances, what should be the long-term strategy of luxury brands and services? How has the pandemic altered consumer behavior, particularly in this case today of high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals? Are they less prone to COVID shocks than the rest of society? How much will the much touted millennials behave in a COVID and a post COVID world? Will revenge shopping save the day, at least in the crucial short term? To discuss this and more, I have with me a diverse and esteemed panel representing some of the most distinguished brands in their respective sectors. I have Prashant Gupta, Vice President and Head, Luxury Malls of DLF Emporio and the Chanakya. Celebrated fashion designer Rahul Mishra, founder and creative director of his eponymous brand. Aditi Dugar, founder of Masque Restaurant and Sage and Saffron. Samir Saran, managing partner India, Sotheby's International Realty. Minal Vazirani, co-founder Saffronart. PB Venugopal, president of Lexus India. And Richa Singh, managing director India of the National Diamond Council. Okay, let me begin by taking this question across the panel. Right, let's just start with a very broad topic. Basically, how much has the consumer behavior, how much has behavior of India's luxury consumer, both the high net worth individual and the millennial, has changed in this pandemic? Basically, what is the change we're seeing in this consumer who probably you guys are closely focused on? Who would like to begin? Maybe we could start with Prashant.
So, I feel that the consumer now, especially in the post-COVID era, has become a little more cautious in terms of his approach. You see, and I'm talking from a luxury mall perspective. Earlier, you used to have people who were both interested in shopping and otherwise, just wanting to come out of their house and hang around in a mall. And these are the two segments that we used to see in our mall. But today, we see a very, very dedicated shopper coming into the mall. The one who's very focused, he knows what or she knows what they want to buy. They would probably fix an appointment before with the brand that they're interested in, do an online experience where they will select a few articles and then come with a very focused approach to buying those particular goods. So that is one of the major changes that we've seen, at least in the first 1.5 months when the malls opened. Now in the last 2 weeks, we've obviously seen far better footfall numbers, and we do see the semblance coming back sooner than later as far as the footfalls and the approach of people is concerned as far as malls are concerned in Delhi.
Right. Okay, let me take that across to Richa. Richa, your observations on changes in consumer behavior?
I think the biggest change we found is the discovery. The consumer is doing the entire discovery online. So the like he mentioned, Prashant mentioned, you don't hang around. You don't. The exploring is all become on your phone, chatting with friends on Zoom, on gadgets. So the exploration, the discovery is all online. You're still waiting for a bit of trust. At least in our category of diamond jewelry, you are waiting for that little faith, that little tasalli you get from meeting your favorite jeweler, because you know that he'll give you a great tip. So we are seeing a lot of move towards WhatsApp shopping, personal home shoppers happening in our category. We are seeing the change of the not physical time spent in store has dropped dramatically. Even when they've opened, the consumer is going for a specific reason with a specific choice which he has already made or she has already made online, and it's really to go and make that final purchase in store. So the in store time spent is really little, and online discovery has become quite substantial now.
Venu, would that hold true for high-end car buyers also? Is online discovery taking over footfalls into your stores?
I would like to put it this way, from an overall automobile industry point of view, I think the first 2 months, April and May, were absolutely very difficult times. But from June onwards, we see a slow recovery that is happening. And of course, our guests are looking at more digital, but at the same time, they would like to engage with us. So we are looking something kind of a phygital kind of an experience where, based on the comfort of the guest, then we would like to meet them at their convenience or at their location, whether it could be their office space or their residence. And we are trying to ensure that the health and safety are the primemost importance for all our guests, and that is similar to across the industry. And when we discuss with the other friends in the industry, we also see a similar trend. And we believe that this is going to be short term, but we are very confident this is going to improve maybe within a year or two.
Okay. So improvements in a year or two. Aditi, would you concur? It's been a rather tough period in the short term. Do you see a turnaround around the corner? In probably, I mean, it's less to do with consumer behavior in your case, and it's more of regulation and the reality.
Yeah, but I would definitely have to add here that we've also seen a new pattern of consumption. I think people are buying into everyday luxury. So whether it's sending somebody a luxurious care package or trying to make celebrations more meaningful with their close ones, I think people are definitely still. I mean, of course, they're more conscious as buyers, but they're definitely going ahead with trusted brands and believing in their quality and service. And we're definitely seeing a new consumption pattern that has evolved during this time.
Right. Okay. So Samir and Minal probably could weigh in on the differences in consumer behavior at the UHNI end and probably at the middle class end. Right. I'll start with Minal. Minal, do you see any kind of significant changes in behavior of the high net worth and ultra high net worth kind of individuals?
Well, I think for us, it's actually been a little bit different because, when it comes to art, there's really kind of, there are three main decision factors that you need time, you need to engage with the product, you've got to be involved. These aren't really impulse buys, it's not perhaps walking through a mall or making a quick decision. So in that sense, I think what's happened, because that we've gone through a lockdown, people are home, they actually have a great deal more time to invest in learning and engaging with art, and therefore making purchase decisions. So for as a company, it's very different because Saffronart, the tenet of the two tenets for Saffronart and for us during this time was really getting back to the reason I founded the company, which was to basically provide access to collectors and also pricing transparency. And those are two things that people couldn't get if they didn't travel and visit galleries. So it was sort of getting back to a very technology-enabled world, and as a result, we've done 4 times the number of auctions from March to August 2020 than we did March to August 2019. So it's been a very big difference for us.
Right. Samir, would this slow burn decision making hold true for realty also?
To a degree, I would agree with that. Having said that, we've discussed that luxury is a very emotive decision. And I think the pandemic and also, the lockdowns have allowed people to reflect on life in general. And what we find is, a convergence between what is deemed to be luxury and what's deemed to be necessity, especially when we're talking, and we're in the business of selling homes. We're not in the business of selling real estate. So from that perspective, definitely, we find there to be a convergence. Today, the home is characterized by more than just, when there was a flight to safety because of the pandemic, people wanted to be more conservative. And today, what better conservation than your own home? And I think also in terms of how things are changing with regards home, in terms of how people are looking at homes, especially on the ultra high net worth and high net worth end of things, we find that the utility that the home is offering today, and it's become a de facto school, it's become an impromptu office. So it's evolving in terms of what it is, but we find that there's been deferment, but we feel that there will be, of course, consumption as we go forward. And there has been consumption, even in lockdown.
Right. Okay. Is Rahul with us? Rahul, are you there? Okay, I don't think he's with us at the moment. So let's move on. Let's move to this much talked about digital transformation that's happened. I mean, not just in the luxury space, but perhaps across industry and across consumers, right? So how much of this shift would be happening, in your particular areas of expertise and your domains, right? I mean, let me go to Prashant there, because there's a lot of talk of this phygital model, right, of people actually creating experiences online that kind of resemble an experience of a mall, right? Is that kind of working, and is there a kind of significant shift towards this phygital model?
We are seeing quite a lot of omni-channel strategy being employed by not just the brands but the mall itself. So, for example, if you were to get in touch with an Emporio or a Chanakya, you have the option today to reach out to a personal shopper who can take you through the brands through a complete online experience, introduce you to the brand manager, show you around what are the products available, and then you can go ahead and fix an appointment and come to the store and pick them up. So yes, there is a good combination of physical as well as online, which wasn't existing before the pandemic. And you are right. I mean, the physical experience is not just happening with the malls, but with all the brands as well. And you see, as far as our understanding is concerned, from for our consumers, we do feel that while you can choose or you can go ahead and select a few items online, but for a luxury consumer, the 5 senses are very important. That is the touch, the feel of the product, and the story behind it. So while you may be able to tell the story online, but you will definitely not be able to sell the product online to a greater extent as far as luxury is concerned. So it is a good combination. We are seeing a shift, and it is a good shift from our perspective, because it's helping us in pushing more sales than what was happening previously.
Sure. Okay. Minal, you had made the move to online auctions probably 2 decades ago almost, right? I mean, and you were seen as quite way ahead of the pack at that time. And then you move to physical spaces, and now we shift back to digital, right? So what do you make of it? I mean, it's like, oh, I've been there, done that, or is this kind of different from how it was?
Gosh, it's completely different. And you make a good point where we do actually, because we started out digital and we started out online, for us too, when the lockdown was imposed, it was perhaps a little bit easier to move everything to the cloud. We'd started the process anyway, and we just had to expand out our offering. So what did we do? We actually just decided to create a much wider access to art. So as I mentioned, we did many more auctions. We reached out to clients with individualized and personalized offerings. But I think, sort of taking that forward, what I'd have to say is coming up now in September, we've really had to rethink what our flagship auction will be. So on September 17th is our 300th auction as a company. And this is usually our large live flagship auction that we do often in Delhi. And so this time we're doing a hybrid of a physical, virtual, online, mobile auction. So we have, several inputs converging on one. And what it does then is it gives a bit of that physicality that some of the other panelists have referred to, because you get the sense that you are, in an auction sale room. You're getting the inputs. You have all of the information that you would ordinarily have from an online auction, which is obviously far greater than being in a live sale room. So we're trying to bring in the best of both worlds, you could say.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. Venu, would a high-end luxury car buyer actually buy something that's worth maybe 2 crores online, or is that touch and feel kind of necessary for him when he's spending that kind of money?
Yes, the kind of experience that we are having is the customers always look at an amazing experience with the product. It's a kind of an emotional transformation of the buying process. So what we say is that our core philosophy is Lexus is in the people's business. So we are not here selling cars, but we are actually looking at transporting emotions. So from that perspective, we have a concept called as the SPOC, which is a single point of contact. So I'm talking about pre-COVID, where we have a designated relationship manager who is in touch with our Lexus guest. But post-COVID, we are looking at a kind of a hybrid model based on the anticipating the need of the guest. We are trying to cater to what he requires. So this is our philosophy as well, and we call this as the spirit of Omotanashi, which is the hospitality based on the expectation of the guest. So what we are seeing in the last 4 months is there is a mix of both visits to the guest experience center, which is a unique space which is available in Delhi, Bangalore, and Mumbai. And apart from this, there is also a digital experience that we are offering to our guests. That is, we are trying to give a virtual imagery of our guest experience centers and as well as the product demonstration to our guests. So the change point is the guests do a lot of study before they actually start interacting with us, which makes it even more engaging. So we are evaluating, because this new normal is not very static, it is very dynamic, and the guest behavior is changing very frequently, and we need to closely watch and then deliver as per their expectations. That's the philosophy that we are following at Lexus.
Okay, great. Okay, let me go to Aditi. Aditi, the delivery business has been online pretty much. I mean, with the big online delivery guys in action pre-COVID, that's probably only gathered steam in this period, right? So how do you adapt to this total kind of shift to delivery and most of it digital?
So I think for us at Masque, obviously food was a very, very tactile experience. So it took us we realized that this was the need of hour, and we had to sort of set up a delivery arm. And we also think that we'll probably continue it even in the foreseeable future, because we've realized that we've been able to discover a newer audience. I think also, like post-COVID, I think people are still going to be a bit more cautious when they go out. And we've actually got a smaller space which is called Masque Lab, which only seats 12 people. So I think initially we probably might just open that up and still continue the online business. We've also set up a website, and we're doing other things like selling dressings, DIY kits. So we've had to obviously pivot and evolve during this time, and we're being quite innovative with deliveries as well.
Right. So is this pivot a short-term or medium-term phenomenon? Once let's assume things do get back or close to normal, would you kind of wind down that part of the business, the delivery business? How do you
No,
see
I don't think so. I think we're going to continue it because we
it?
really have sort of discovered a new audience and a new pattern of consumption.
Right. Okay. Samir, how does it work in real estate? I mean, I'm sure there are people who can afford some great mouth-watering deals that are going around, not just in India, but also internationally in realty. But it's the same problem of actually being there in those properties, actually seeing those properties live, right? I mean, so how do you overcome that block? I think there's a problem with your volume. I think. Okay.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying that we were very lucky going into the pandemic, and that we have a prop tech platform. So we were always very much online. And again, it's like others have said, it's about creating the experience, and we've been very good at creating that experience. Now, real estate and homes are obviously a high ticket item. There's a certain amount of touch required, but we try and create an experience before that touch point. So, we've got proprietary technology that we've had for some time. We do 3D virtual tours where you can literally walk through a house. You can walk up to the window.
Oh no, I think we've lost Samir. Okay, we'll come back to Samir when he comes back.
Or you can
Let
look
me go
out.
to
Sorry.
Sorry, yeah, Samir, please go on.
Sorry, so apologies for being cut. So I was just saying that we've created, so we create the experience by having a virtual tour of the house. We have proprietary technology in terms of Matterport, where you can literally walk through, you can look out of a window, you can see what is across the road. So that reduces in terms of sales velocity, in terms of touch points. We were very actively doing open houses earlier, and this is a very good replacement of that open house where somebody can actually get a sense of everything before they come and physically see it to finally sign off on it.
Right. Okay, great. Okay, Richa, I mean, if there's anything that needs touch and feel before you buy it, it's probably diamonds, right? Or am I wrong about that?
So I am actually in a place where I think that it's a combination of what everyone said. We are in a very good place because all the conversations we've spent this time understanding, like you said, the new normal is so constantly evolving that we need to stay connected and touch base. The consumer is missing the trust aspect, but the retailers, the jewelers are cognizant of that, and we have same as what has been shared. There are experiences you have walked through in the store, you're opening everything, showing it to the consumer, narrowing down to 3 or 4 pieces and then sending them home, or she's walking in at that time to see or take a chance on those 4 pieces only. So she's not coming and spending half a day in the store, but she is going through the experience already. People are going back to places who they know. So I wouldn't say that they're going and exploring new places for their wedding jewelry. No, they're not. They're going back to places they know, they trust, people they know, they trust. The smaller jewelry pieces, yes. What is positive is the consumer has decided that she wants something. This is the time, these last 4 months, if there's one thing that she's come back with, is said that I want fewer things, but things that matter to me. I want to buy things which have emotional value, which means something to me and something I can pass on. There's a very, very healthy respect for nature and anything natural. So in all those things we've put in. So we are hoping that this is just a deferred purchase and not not a no to or a negative to our category. So we are, I think, as it opens up, we are seeing consumer walk-in. The walk-in is very conscious and very cautious, and as it opens we will see more. But people have become so comfortable with the Zooms and the technology and WhatsApp calls that I think we will arrive at a balance of both. You will see a lot more consumers who will do personal shopping online before they actually visit a store or they invite somebody over.
Okay, great. Okay, so from diamonds, let's move to the festive season, and somehow, I mean, there's a temptation to conclude that the festive season could actually coincide with this phenomenon, that this much talked about phenomenon of revenge spending, right? Which China apparently saw a lot of that when things came under control. So how real is this this expectation of there being revenge spending in the short term and actually resulting in a bump in sales, right? Maybe I'll start with Prashant here because I mean malls have opened up in many cities. So do you expect a kind of flood of, okay, not a flood, but at least a surge of consumers coming back to the malls? You're on mute, I think, Prashant.
Sorry. I'm saying the revenge spending news article that came from China for one particular luxury brand, which is also housed with us in one of our malls, I think was overhyped because you see what happened was that Chinese consumer by and large was the largest consumer of luxury goods across the globe, and they used to typically not only shop within the mainland China, but they used to travel to Europe and America and contribute to a lot of shopping numbers there as well. So when you see the China data, to compare it to any other part of the world, in my opinion, may not be the right thing, and each market is behaving differently. Coming back to the point of revenge buying or revenge spending, I do not feel that that one particular brand or that sale in that particular month should be taken as a benchmark to compare any market, whether it is within China or outside China. But having said that, yes, we are seeing a healthy pattern. If we look at the sale pattern of our brands, and some marquee brands are doing much better than what was expected. Also because of the fact that the Indian consumers also contributed a lot to the shopping in Europe and in America in the past, which is not happening now. So every Indian consumer is satisfying their demand domestically within the country itself, and certain brands are seeing far better numbers than the others. Now, if you look at buying patterns, categories like accessories, athleisure, casual wear, they are seeing a far better recovery than ready to wear and couture, especially because couture picks up when there are weddings or social occasions, and right now with the absence of those, these particular categories are a little dominant in comparison to the others. So it's a mixed bag actually. But from that perspective of revenge buying, I don't agree with that you would suddenly see luxury brands walking away to the bank just because there was a lockdown of 2.5 months. No, it is going to take time. It is healthy for a lot of brands, and for the others in categories which are in couture and ready to wear, it will take maybe a month or two more for things to normalize.
Yeah, I've seen Minal, you had raised your hand. Yeah.
So I want to touch upon something that I thought was really interesting that Prashant said, and I agree. I don't think it's a revenge spending sort of phenomenon. I think the Chinese being luxury shoppers is a separate phenomenon. I think really the critical point, and I think Prashant alluded to this, is the idea of being local. And it's what I was talking about before, where I think there will be a consolidation of luxury spend and luxury consumption locally or regionally, because I think travel and movement will be restricted for quite some time. So I think it's less about a brand or less about revenge spending and more about accessibility than anything else. But my feeling is, as that happens, perforce, there will be a greater introspection within what we might call luxury. And the fact is, I can only speak to art, but I think there's a sort of a leaning towards being sensible or sustainable, or evaluating concepts or issues, being more rooted in innovation and craftsmanship. And as a result, so for example, with the art world, one of the things we've seen is a strong uptick for indigenous art, so folk and tribal art, the understanding of something that is very much rooted in India and local here.
Right. Okay. Aditi, do you see, assuming restaurants open up, and one would think that they should be opening up by now, do you kind of expect an initial burst of restaurants and fine dining restaurants going full now?
Yes, we hope. Looking at other cities like the UK, Copenhagen, Paris, all the restaurants are full. Delhi restaurants are really packed since they've opened as well. I think for us, I think what will really happen is that I think people are going to make more purposeful choices. Even through the pandemic, people have become a more discerning audience themselves, because everybody's cooking at home. They've invested in great equipment. You can see Instagram is full of people making banana bread and sourdough. So I think there'll be more appreciation of craft when we open. And I really think people will really sort experiences and look for value and like close knit dinners. And I think that's where probably Masque Lab will really come into effect as well.
Okay, great. Let me move to Samir on this question of revenge spending. I mean, I can't see it working in real estate. I mean, there shouldn't be any revenge. But do you see a kind of short-term spike happening there?
We feel that, okay, so let me just tell you some of the trends that have come about from the lockdown and the pandemic. So one thing that people have definitely looked towards is the utility of the home. And as a result of that, people have thought about upgrading their existing homes to try and cater for all the different utilities that they have today, whether it's a school, whether it's working at home, etc. So there has been much talk about, so this is one particular trend in terms of upgrading existing homes and looking for larger homes. One point I wanted to just talk about that Minal had made about, so whilst I believe that consumption for luxury may become more local from the perspective that people may want to go on a holiday at a more local destination than going internationally, this has also caused an inflection point in terms of people thinking about where is the home and where should I be living and about the freedom of movement. And that has also created many queries around, is India the right place to be? Should I be looking, my kids are older, they're settled overseas, should I be looking overseas? So we're seeing a lot of discussion and demand around overseas destinations as well. And, the pandemic, obviously there has been some price correction, more so in markets like in New York and the UK. And the government has given significant incentive to try and boost demand there as well. So we're seeing a lot of activity and people looking in those kind of jurisdictions too.
Sure. Yeah, Venu, revenge spending and cars that cost above 2 crore. I mean, that sounds like a mouth-watering prospect.
Just to add a perspective from Lexus side,
Yeah.
for all the challenges that we have faced, if we have to pick up something that is good that has happened for us because of the COVID is the cleaner environment.
Okay.
And when we talk to all our guests, one thing that is coming out very clearly is they have become more conscious about the environment and they would like to leave a better tomorrow for the generations to follow. This is a very common thread that we are seeing. And if I have to convert this into a bit of a statistics, when we, before the COVID, it was about 40% of our guests, the purchase reason was a self-charging hybrid electric vehicle, whereas now it has moved to 70 to 80%. So that is a very clear indication of our guests becoming very conscious and they want to live a better tomorrow. And I feel that as luxury brands, that we need to do a lot more in contributing to the environment. So in fact, we make our guests carbon neutral by planting equal number of trees so that every guest can drive with a conscious of contributing to the environment. This is the perspective that we would like to add from Lexus.
Okay, sustainability, environment consciousness. Yeah, and you add all that up to attractively priced. Oh, we have Rahul back here. Okay, welcome back, Rahul.
I'm
Okay.
so sorry, but this Mac versus Windows I've been since 3:45 trying, so finally got Google Chrome downloaded, and now I hope it works out really well.
Sure. It's never too late. So let's come to you straight away. Maybe you could fill us in with some trends that are currently underway in the international fashion market, right? I mean, are we seeing? What's the trend with department stores, which probably were anyway struggling, and probably this idea of niche branding, which I think is something that you support, may be taking off now, and that's probably a good opportunity for kind of focusing on niches, right? So what are the kind of changes that you see happening in the international fashion market that will decide the kind of strategy that you take?
Obviously, when you look at like multi-brand retail stores, like super large chains, like they had been struggling. So COVID-19 only created, in a way, a bit of became a bit catalyst to make everything a bit more faster. The entire process of like most of the stores which are struggling, they started struggling a bit more. What is happening now, I think as a branding point of view, it's a transparency of process, which is something which everybody's trying to talk about. Whether you look at the campaigns which are done by Gucci or Dior and all these brands, like everybody is looking at now actually consumer, because of social media, because of everything, is directly interacting with the brands, and they are able to give direct real time feedback, and they are able to gain real time information. So in this time, what is happening, the entire approach of branding, which used to earlier go through advertising, the advertising agency would tell them this is how you need to look like, or this is how, this is your agencies would tell this is your strongest area, why don't you talk about this. So in that way, what happens, that entire communication has become rather more uniform, rather more, I would say, a bit like, Simon Sinek, the way he say, why, how, and what. So there has been a strong sync now, and that's what the future looks like. Very, very strong sync between what you're doing and the process which you follow in making that product. What is the product and the purpose behind the overall thing? So that is something which I've seen as a major communication drive. Whether as a brand, when we are also communicating right now, recently we had like digital haute couture show, and then on other hand, Dior had one show which was, again, they're done with all white models and very big budget short fashion film. And when very, very also, when we looked at the New York Times or Financial Times describing like everybody's show, I was very lucky that they said that his show was one of the better shows or best shows during the entire thing. It's not about budget, it's not about like how much creative energy you are trying to, but how much honesty you have in your communication, how much of integrity you have in your processes, and then finally what a product looks like. So somehow the age old idea of, do whatever you do, make the cheapest possible product, but branding is going to take care of it. Your advertising is going to take care of it. We're going to blow people's mind. So that entire screen of advertising, where the advertising is like, in front of the screen what is visible, and behind the screen I can do whatever I like. I think that kind of time is over for most of the luxury brands, and especially luxury brands. They interact one on one through social media and through their channels with their customers.
Right. Okay. So talking about social media brings me to another much touted word, which is millennial, right? And I mean, personally, I thought the connection between luxury and millennial was always tenuous, but has it become even more kind of dubious in COVID times, or do you see the millennial actually being a core contributor to luxury spending? Maybe, yeah, maybe Venu, you could take that. I mean, do you expect younger people to buy Lexus cars?
Yes, actually, it's a mix. Now, one is when you look at India from a more mid to long term point of view, there is a good hope, and we strongly believe that the millennials will contribute more, and as we have the youngest population in the world. And even today, even if you look at the age bracket of most of our customers, it's a big mix of elderly as well as the millennials. And even for the elderly guest, the millennials play a big role in the decision making process. So whether they're going to own one or they're going to use one, so we see that they are going to play a very important role in the luxury spends, and gives us the biggest hope that this luxury segment will completely recover. If I have to give you some data points, we are still at 1.2% of the total passenger car market when you look at the entire luxury automobile segment. And if you see in the developed countries, it has moved to 5% and close to 10%. So, and if you compare that with the population, so the younger population, and map it with the developed country population, so there will be a lag of 5-6 years. So that is why, apart from the COVID factor, there was the slowdown in the industry that was already happening pre-COVID. So now you will see a more of a W-shaped recovery than a V-shaped recovery. So that's the hope that we have, and we strongly believe that we have to look at India more from a mid to long term perspective than a short term impact because of COVID.
Sure. Richa, millennials and diamonds, do the two kind of fit in well? And if so, what are the kind of diamonds that the younger generation prefers?
Surprisingly, yes, they are fitting. We are seeing a lot more younger customer entering. I think that they are in India, especially it's a bit of a high-low kind of a fashion statement that is coming. So you will see that they mix it up. They find high street brands they want to mix up. Also, there is this myth that diamonds are super expensive. Not everybody needs to wear a 4 carat. You can have more accessible diamonds. So it's not about small or big. I think the reason for getting into diamonds is what they mean to you. My first memory is my mom giving me something on my 16th birthday. That's a piece of jewelry, however tiny, very close to my heart. Or it's what it means to you, really. And that is, I think, every piece of jewelry that a woman has, she will have a story to tell. And I think it's stemming from what we learned from our mums, grandmoms, passed on, and then we want to make it our own. So you will see a lot of the millennials who pick something from their mum and want to repackage it, restyle it, wear it differently, and make it their own. But they do like the idea of having something which is 100 years old, or but styled in a more modern way. I'm sure Rahul can add to things, but there is this desire to own a piece of history. It's more stylish. Going retro is cool. So I think that we are fitting into a place where everybody wants to have it was a mention, I think Aditi said, it's purposeful luxury. So everybody is looking at what they are buying into and making sure there is good happening in the industry. It's coming from the right place. It's natural. India is the home for karigars. I just feel there is so much talent here that there is nothing else that you can pick up. If you see jewelry, you go to different places. The younger generation is seeing that and appreciating that.
Right, Rahul, I'll take that to you. You see that such consciousness in the millennial customer, probably in India as well as internationally?
I think what is happening, just maybe a couple of years back, people now who are purchasing things, who are buying things, just 5-6 years back, they were probably 16 or 18-year-old. Now they are earning their own money. They have got different dreams for the 10 years. So this entire phase is changing really fast. And one thing is that because the communication is so clear, they really feel that they are very connected, and they are able to control also the same time through their wisdom. They are able to buy things, and they are not necessarily like this time is gone, I would say, when people in peer pressure were doing something. This young generation has got minds of its own. Like, I always believe, and this is what I've seen, even an ocean of influence, they are not easily influenced. Ocean of influencers, they are not easily influenced, and they do have a proper. So when you look at like somebody like Greta Thunberg, for example, who is talking about climate change, and the way even school kids, when I meet them, I think 5 years down the line, it's going to be rather more disruptive. The way we see luxury, we all have to kind of prepare for that time where actually people might ask accountability in terms of your processes, which is completely transparent, and at the same time, probably pricing also, even for luxury, has to have that kind of value. Because very honestly, as a designer, I might be selling a lehenga at 8 lakhs rupees. But there's a young brain who thinks, okay, fine, you are employing people, you are employing craftsmen, but how much of that money is actually going in and benefiting grassroots embroiderer, who's last one in the chain, in entire supply chain? So these kind of very uncomfortable, difficult questions, we all, if not are being asked, probably next 2 or 3 years we are going to ask more readily, more repeatedly, and that's how social media gives you that kind of freedom, and that's the approach which is going to happen to all of us.
Sure. Okay. Let me go to Aditi now. Aditi, I'm sure the millennials are ordering in big time. Right. So what are the patterns you see there, maybe in terms of spending and in terms of preferences, also in terms of food preferences? I think we'll be very interested to know what do they order in.
So I think we made a complete shift when we moved to a delivery model. Obviously, our menu is full offering of everything that's comfort. I mean, when you're sitting at home, you're really only looking at eating comfort food. So things like burgers are really popular on our menu. You know, we're doing tacos, we're doing like a very hearty ramen bowl, we're doing thukpa. So we're really, I think, concentrating on comfort. That's been our focus throughout the delivery model, has really been comfort food. And I think for us, we see a huge trend. I mean, I want to just touch upon the millennial consumer, is that everybody is looking at appreciating local for sure. And, I think the audience has really become discerning with, seeing shows like MasterChef and, also developing all these crafts and skills during these lockdown. I think people have become very appreciative of what's in their own backyard, and we're seeing a lot of appreciation also for the work we do, in a big way now.
Okay. Anything in particular that you see that the younger generation prefers that probably is not quite on the menu of the older
I
generation?
think I mean, our menus have been, people have really, really been appreciative of our offering. I think burgers have really, really been the highlight of this lockdown for us. We've
Okay.
been selling out by like 4 p.m. Every day.
Wow. Okay, that's something. Okay. Let me take this millennial question to Samir and Minal. I mean, maybe, I mean, it's a perception, but maybe I'm wrong. But art and millennials, antiquities, and such collections. I mean, is it something that's up the street of the young generation?
Actually, it is. I mentioned earlier we began doing many more auctions during this period when people have more time to take a look and are home. So what we've done, we have two platforms. One is Saffronart, and which really is very much at the top end, and the other platform is Story Limited. And what that does is it really provides artwork, original fine art, prints, photography, other collectible categories. But what's interesting is we do these auctions with no reserve. So what that means is, if, for example, something is estimated at 5 to 7 lakhs or 8 to 10 lakhs, if the bidding only reaches 2.5 lakhs, it will sell at 2 lakhs. And so what happens is you've got something that would have been priced at double the value you've bought it at. And that's very exciting for a young person who, is perhaps looking to acquire their first work, or is, wanting to expand their collection. So when it comes to, and it's not really just millennials, because I know that's a pretty narrow definition, but expanding out to the younger collector, I think this has been phenomenal, because what we do that's different is, in addition to the no reserve auctions, which I think reduces a bit of that, how should I put it, a bit of the risk factor with coming in and bidding, it being a little less intimidating, perhaps.
Right.
What it does is the engagement is all virtual. So it's all through social media, it's digital marketing, it's a world they inhabit in a very different way. I mean, many of these people are digital natives, right? They're not like us. So I think they're very comfortable with coming on stream through there. And and I think that's really what's driven a significant portion of our sales.
Sure. Okay. Samir, your kind of feedback and observations on, I won't use the word millennial, but probably maybe under 40, under 35, maybe.
So
What is happening?
I was gonna say millennials as a category generally tended to be a little bit more footloose and fancy free when it came to real estate. They didn't really want to have any ties pinning them down anywhere. So it was more
Right.
about renting properties, experiencing places. But I think the pandemic has changed that kind of thought process, in terms of wanting to own their own asset. And I think that's been quite a dramatic shift from a real estate perspective. And I'm not talking about in India, perhaps per se, but I'm talking about worldwide. We see it across the UK, we see it across the US. I think, again, coming back to the flight to safety, younger people, if they had been furloughed, if they had lost their job, the continuity of having to pay rental, whereas they could have purchased their own property. And today, with a benign interest rate environment, it becomes easier to purchase property. Even in India today, we've got a very benign kind of India has never been as low as it has been today, at around about 8%. So it makes it quite attractive to today own your own asset, and certainly in terms of providing safety, shelter. And I started this all by saying that really there's a confluence between what in our sphere is luxury and necessity. And we definitely see that going forward and really driving the market going forward.
Sure. Okay, I've got a ton of viewer questions here, so I'll just take them one by one, and I think I'll leave it open to you guys to decide who wants to take it. The first one is, how much of discretionary spending is the luxury consumer still willing to make in post-pandemic? This is from Mahesh Muthani. Who would want to take that? Venu, how much of discretionary spending is the luxury consumer still willing to make?
See, from the current situation, I think rightly so, the decision is focused on their respective business and focus on their employees, and that was happening for the first 2 months. So now we slowly see the market inching back and looking at spends considering responsible luxury. So once if the guests are able to see that they are able to contribute to it, then they are looking at that kind of a spend. Otherwise, their focus is definitely on re-establishing and reprioritizing their spends to revamp their business and their business revisit their strategies, looking at further venues. So we engage with our guests in such a fashion that we would like to anticipate this. And for us, it is never a push sale. It is a kind of a relationship. So we would not like to go it in a sales mode. So for us, it's a relationship that we look at for the entire life cycle. So now we are always focusing on the ownership experience. So even with our existing guests, it is about their servicing of the cars and maybe interacting with the virtual medium and do it yourself, which is actually gaining speed. So that is what we are seeing as far as the our industry is concerned.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that, or should I move to the next question? Okay, there's a question from Alex Baby who asks, in case of shopping for fashion, and this is a topic we did touch upon, but I think this is as direct as the question can be, will the trend towards online shopping be more prominent than brick and mortar stores? Prashant?
As I had mentioned earlier, brick and mortar was earlier contributing more than 90% of the luxury sale in any case. So, you may see a shift towards online by a certain percentage, which may spike that percentage to a certain extent, but brick and mortar is not going anywhere as far as luxury shopping is concerned. And it again comes back to the same old five senses and how a luxury consumer wants to experience a product before buying it. And it's not very, very transactional. It's just that you go online and you buy a certain product because the market as such is different and the consumer is also different. So while there may be a spike to a certain extent, but definitely there's not going to be a...
Okay, let's get Rahul's view on this, because I think when we're talking about the digital play, you weren't around. So Rahul, what's your feeling about online shopping at this period?
As I said, like, this is also time for most of the brands to go directly to consumers. So in that way, as I said earlier, like, future for multi-brand stores is quite limited now. We have started our e-commerce on 7th of July, which started along with my digital showcase in Paris. And the reaction has been really, really good. And I completely agree with Prashant also, like, for the local consumer who is probably Delhi or Bombay based, they select something, and when they are aware about brand, it becomes very comfortable for them to buy it online. And when they buy it online, then also for customization and all that, they might need that entire experience. For product like saris and all that, is quite easy to see that. But apart from one more thing which I want to say is, suddenly because of this COVID, all the brands have started pushing quite a lot in online space, and that has somehow helped me. We have got lot many orders happening from Qatar, from Saudi Arabia, a lot of places where COVID has not impacted that much,
Right.
as compared to Europe or America. Even China, I have got from Shanghai one big order. So this e-commerce is actually also a kind of extension of the brand's reach, which reaches everywhere. So one has to see, because physical store is going to only cater to a very, very small area, very small radius. But
Right.
online, there's no limit. So I'm sure, for a brand's perspective, the growth of online is going to be phenomenal, and there will be a time when actually, most of the sale will be driven by online platforms.
Okay. And I have to ask you about your favorite fashion week, the Paris Fashion Week. And I think Minal had talked about this hybrid model of auctions, right? Are we seeing this similar kind of hybrid model in fashion shows and fashion weeks? And how do you relate to those? How different is it from the conventional fashion weeks that you were used to attending? No, this is for Rahul. Sorry.
So I'm going to unmute
I think
myself.
that's for Rahul, yeah.
So the thing was, like, for example, I experienced both the shows. On a lighter note, if I share this with you, in January, I did first haute couture show in Paris, which costed me around 1.5 to 2 crores. On other hand, I did a digital show from India, sitting over here by shooting it. It cost me only 15 lakhs rupees. So it's a huge difference for a brand, which I was really happy.
Sure.
But somehow the entire magic and experience, especially in Paris, the way Dior, Chanel, all these brands they put together, I'm sure, like, there are already many articles in New York Times and everywhere. People want these physical shows to be back. But nevertheless, one has to understand, like, whenever we do a physical show, we only do it for 200 people, 300 people who are present over there for the show.
Mhm.
Rest all the imagery any which we're going in a digital way. So in today's times, to categorize now a show being digital and earlier it was not digital,
Right.
I'm thinking that this is a wrong approach. Although through FDCI we are doing next month we are doing a kind of couture show, which is a bit phygital, but I don't think anything is called phygital. Either you're physically present somewhere or you're digitally present somewhere. So these two things are going to go hand in hand. But for sure, the experience of physical shows, the entire, and there's a big industry of models, choreographers, makeup artists, set designers. Everybody needs work. So in that way also it will go on for sure.
Sure. Minal, similarities with the art business?
Yeah, I think Rahul makes a great point, and it really it's that one aspect of what we're calling it today, which is luxury, which is that experiential aspect, that feeling of being physically engaged, of seeing something and experiencing it with your senses that you don't otherwise. And I think when it comes to things like fashion or art or anything that's atmospheric, or if you're observing something or looking at something like a painting, I think that what we will see more of, rather than reverting back to the old way of doing things, because as I said, I think people have had time, to think about it. So I think there will be a new path forward that emerges. I strongly suspect that a lot of this will be based on augmented reality options, on virtual reality, depending on how untethered that becomes, and how easy it is to work with, rather than those big headsets and so on. But I do think AR is going to take us a long way in the near future, where you can experience an exhibition at a museum, or a gallery or an institution, and it feels as though you're there. Or you can experience a fashion show, for example, or you could perhaps try on a pair of earrings, or whatever the case may be. It brings in that experiential component. So I think we will begin seeing a lot more technology enabled experiences, or for real estate for that matter, instead of it just watching it on some sort of a tethered device. I think getting the sense that you're walking around a home. And I think with art in particular, as I said, I mean, obviously that's my corner of the world, but it makes a big difference to be able to see and experience and engage with the work. So I strongly believe that's the direction we're headed in.
Great. Cool. Thanks. Let me move to the next audience question. That's Akshay Kumar M. He says, an economic recession is at a doorstep. Does it affect luxury brands and real estate in a bad way? Okay, I guess you could answer this as yes or no, but probably something slightly longer. Samir, economic recession, direct correlation with luxury brands and real estate?
So I'm just gonna just turn around and say, and I'm sorry to reiterate it again and again during the course of this, but really today, we're talking homes, and from that perspective, there will always be demand for homes. Now, in terms of, in terms of recession, so one has to see that there is some pent-up demand that will get utilized. We're also hopeful that things will get back to normal, and perhaps they won't go back to the normal as we know it, but they will go back to normal. There will be consumption uptick. Maybe there'll be a lot of innovation around this in terms of how things are consumed and done. We feel, I mean, just generally as a business, we feel very confident in terms of the way people are viewing things and the way people are moving around in terms of the queries that they're asking. And, I want to tell you that given our platform and given what we have, we concluded one of our largest transactions during the lockdown. So I feel that people have the money, people have deferred decisions. I think there is a lot of pent-up demand, and I feel that whilst the governments also around the world have done much in terms of fiscal support, to support economies, to see it through this period. So, I'm in the, optimistic camp, and I'm wearing my optimistic hat, and, I'm going to say that, I'm hoping that things will recover sooner rather than later. And really the silver lining in all of this is the innovation and online and things that are happening, which I think should have happened earlier, but are happening now more as a result of this.
Okay, great. Let me take that optimism to Richa, because in diamonds, I think India really lags behind the US and China, right? I think diamond consumption is in single digits.
Yes.
Right. So is this probably an opportunity for India to, for more Indians to consume more diamonds and actually, make up for any shortfalls elsewhere in the world?
Oh, absolutely. We would like to believe that every person will wake up and start to. We are predominantly a gold jewelry market. But the more conversation we have with the younger audience, again, millennial is too restricted, but we have with the younger audience, I tend to be in the optimistic camp to say that, yes, we are looking at, the consumer is looking at being more responsible. So they are looking at fewer things. She's asking for things which mean something. Like I said, there's an emotional connect and emotional value and things that last. So when it's for a purchase which feels like it will be used, it will hold meaning, the consumer is still making that purchase. The affluent consumer is not stopping and saying no. She's just being more discerning about it. And as long as we can justify, like Rahul mentioned, if you can trace back and say that, it's not all spent on advertising. There is transparency, where it came from, what has happened, the journey. And I think that that's something we as an industry have consciously worked about. Transparency is one of the big objectives we have as the council, to share and put across with the consumer, so that the belief is our industry works a lot on trust. And I think that everybody has worked hard together as an industry at every step of the supply chain to say, how we can make ourselves more clearer, answer all queries, explain. And at this point of time, the positive that has come out is that the consumer has more time. She has the energy to listen to you, to spend, to ask more questions, to discover, check online, call you. So there is a lot of interaction that is happening, which is at an exploration and not as a purchase. So the exploration is putting us in a healthy place. And we are making sure that our industry is upskilling as well, learning along the curve, sharing the narrative that we all know but is not necessarily known across the board. So yeah, I see a positive trend. According to me, a lot of the purchase is deferred. It's not cancelled. Weddings have shifted a little, But for me, purchases are still happening. We still have sign curiosity. And I think, if you want to leave a memory behind or have something, what better than a piece of diamond jewelry? I can see diamond flashing in Minal's ears, and it brings a smile to my face. So, yes, I'm hoping to see a lot more women with diamonds flashing around and walking around with it. Yes.
Okay, fabulous. Okay,
Rich, I have to do that, given that we've done all these jewelry conferences. One of them that you've been a part of as well.
Of course.
Okay, an interesting question from Jay Gandhi. Will the post-pandemic luxury market be ripe for new young entrants with ambitions to set up a luxury brand? What advice would you give such a young aspirant? Well, that's interesting. Aditi, would you have some advice or some thoughts on young entrepreneurs? I think your mic is.
I would say not to immediately leap into something because I think we need to see, and with every pandemic, I mean, we always see a second wave, and we can see it happening globally as well. So I think like one must wait till at least until next year before leaping into anything.
Okay. Rahul, your advice to a ambitious youngster who wants to set up his own label, perhaps?
I would always say, like, you have to realize when is the right time for you. Nobody else can tell you, because there are three things which you have to see is more than looking at market, more than looking at if market is ready for you or not. It's more important that if you are ready for yourself or not. So your unique ability, what is going to USP of a brand, and what you're looking at as a supply chain. So when we talk about transparency, when you talk about what is the strength, so your strength needs to match your supply chain, and your product should have a USP. If it is ready, I think no time is bad for you, because I've always believed, like, these bad time, difficult times are very, very good to start if you're starting something on a very conservative scale, when you're trying to polish your skills. Because if you can make all your mistakes in these bad times and you can control your mistakes, you will fly really, really well when times become really conducive for you. So it's just about polishing the skills and making yourself ready for everything, rather than you
I'm sure
waiting for
Minal
market
will have
to
a
be
view
ready.
on this, because Minal, you would have seen 9/11, you would have seen the 2008 crisis, and now we have this pandemic, which, of course, I mean, I think we are unanimous about being probably the worst among the last three crises. So I mean, how does crisis actually make you stronger going forward, and does it actually make your brand stronger?
I think it's a great question, Brian. Thank you for aging me. But I've been through the short-lived 6-month sort of .com boom in India in 2000 when I first started, and 9/11 shortly thereafter, and yes, of course, the financial crisis in 2008. And I have to tell you, I think those have been the moments of I mean, the most learning and the most personal growth, certainly the most introspection, and I think, therefore, the need for innovation. So I would say, if I can share my experience and then offer the advice. I mean, after 2000, it was such a short-lived boom. We raised institutional funding. We almost shut down in 2003 as a result of that kind of that euphoric spending to go with marketing then. And we sort of bootstrapped the company and got going. We really were able to scale up. And again, in 2008, the market was hit so badly that we found that contemporary works, I mean, we had a work by an artist that sold for $1.5 million in June of 2008, and a work from the same series by the same artist sold for $250,000 in early 2009. So it was a huge drop down in value. But what came out of that period was that was the first time we began doing these online auctions with no reserve. And that's when we got Story going. The other thing we did was expand our categories to mitigate risk. And that's the first time that we did included jewelry as part of our auctions. And so from there on out as well, there are sort of market cycles, there are ups and downs. But I think it's a matter of your perspective, how you see that. Is it a time to just consolidate and hold tight? There may be some businesses where that's the right thing to do. But for us, I think it consistently has been a learning point where we can say, look, let's strengthen what it is we're offering. So as we come out of this kind of downturn, we're in a much better position pulling out of it. And that's what we've chosen to do. And I think we've been able to do it reasonably well. So I would say to a young entrepreneur, if you can garner the resources, if excuse me, if the business you're putting together allows you to build during this time, there couldn't be a better time.
Okay, that's great. I hope that inspires the young gentleman there. Okay, one last question perhaps from Saurabh Singh. This is an interesting one also. Do we really need a brand ambassador to promote high-end luxury in the time of the pandemic when consumers are looking for value for their money instead of any celebrity status? Okay, that's an interesting question. Probably at any time, do we really need a brand ambassador to promote high-end luxury car? Maybe Venu.
So I was expecting this, Brian. So Lexus or any automobile business, it's a very two school of thoughts. One set believes that we need a brand ambassador. But I would like to speak from our perspective. And we strongly believe that each and every guest is our brand ambassador and he's our advocator. And so we focus on more one-to-one kind of a marketing. And we would like to stick to that philosophy. And it is all about experience for each and every guest, which has to be unique. And that's why we call it Lexus Experience Amazing.
Okay.
So that's my
Prashant,
take on
you
this.
have a thought on that?
Well, I think it's a very generic question and would differ from brand to brand depending on how each brand wants to resonate with its target clientele or customers. So it's a very generic question. It would not fit properly from my perspective whether we would like to have an ambassador or not. If I were to speak for myself, I don't think it makes a difference if you have a brand ambassador or not. Purely boils down to what kind of product you have and how is your consumer able to relate to it and what kind of value does he associate with it.
Okay, if I had to slightly tweak that question, I mean, is this a time to kind of actually increase marketing spends?
Yes, this is the time to rethink about your marketing spends. If you were looking at doing events earlier, with now social distancing coming into play and you not being able to do a lot of physical events, you may want to rethink of how your strategy will be to reach out to your consumers. So from a marketing point of view, yes, this is the time to completely rethink and refocus on how were you able to reach out to your consumers earlier versus how would you do it now and how could you combine both of them.
Okay, great. Cool. So I think we can quickly have a last round of views on probably what the festive season holds for us and probably what we would be doing a year later at the same time. I mean, some crystal ball gazing here would be interesting. I think a good way to wind this down, right? So maybe Richa, you could tell us, I mean, what can we expect in the festive season and a year from now?
A year from now, I'm hoping, I'm the optimist here and hoping that everything is, what is happening. What we expect in the festive season is that we will be back to spending. We believe that the retail will be in a much better environment, in a better situation, I should say. But the purchases would still be, and this is my belief, the purchases will still be limited to specifics. You will not have too much time spent in store, too much. People will still be conscious. The memories will be strong with what we've gone through. So there will be very thought out purchase. A year down, I think the consumer would want to reinforce would be spending. The one thing that holds constant from this year end to the next year is that people are looking to celebrate here and now. And when I say celebration, I'm not talking about lavish parties, but what I mean is they want to enjoy the moment today because of the unpredictability of what comes next. And I think that's something a lot of our consumers are articulating. So you want to make a special memory. Now, whether the special memory is the two of you in your house doing something special, or just buying something special to commemorate the birth of a child, an anniversary, a moment that you remember that you did something together, or just going for a drive without rolling down your windows and staying in. But people are looking to celebrate these small moments, and I think we'll be a part of this celebration in these celebration of these small special moments to you.
Okay. Anybody would like to hazard a guess of where we'll be at this point in a year? I know it's an unfair question, but I'm just hoping that someone would want to take that question. Yeah, Rahul, you want to say something?
I think I want to add what Richa was saying right now. I just experienced last month, although in a Merrily store we did not have a lot of footfall, but our sales were almost 3 times of last year for the same month, all through e-commerce, WhatsApp, and one-on-one interaction of merchandisers or managers with people. 2 days back, I came across this image of a beautiful bride. She had a home wedding. She was wearing a beautiful lehenga. So according to me, in terms of fashion perspective, I must say, although it looks like we lost 2-3 months because of close down and all that, but according to me, when I think about luxury spending, especially luxury spending, although I'm going to keep aside traveling and hotel industry and all that, that's going to be badly hit right now any which way. People spending, especially on fashion, for any big fat Indian wedding was 5 to 7%, any which way. The more so spending was on hosting guests, flying them down, booking some amazing beach and all that, and having festivities at 3-4 different locations, calling in some of the Bollywood performers to perform. So when you compare all the spending, 5 to 7% spending is going to continue as people will start, and people also realizing this lockdown that probably only what matters for them in the family is only those 50 people. Probably they were getting in 3,000 more people for the big fat Indian wedding just to show them how large or lavish set they can make. So in that way, weddings are going to be far more mindful. Celebrations are going to be all about satisfying your own soul. And nobody can deny that you don't want to look good, or you don't want to drive a good car, or you don't want to live in a beautiful house. So these dreams, life is fleeting, our time is so limited. People will go for these dreams, whatever we say, but experience is going to be rather more personalized, rather more mindful.
Sure. Okay, I think that's a good optimistic note to end this discussion on. I think it's been very fruitful. There's been a lot of learning, and I think it's been a rough period for most of us, but I think there are also opportunities down the road, and I wish each one of you all the best. And thank you again for being part of this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.